Hello and welcome to Hospitality Talks. And I'm here with Abid. We are now decided to do a little bit the end of year wrap up. So, Abid, good to see you. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. And hello, everybody around the world. Welcome to our last session of the year. It has been a very trying year in many ways for everybody around the world. But we wanted to take a few moments, just sort of recap a few of the highlights and a few of the learnings that we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been a very, very challenging time for everyone, and obviously we are both Abid and I feel for all the people in the hospitality industry who are having a very challenging time. The ones who are looking forward to the 2021 when we can have a better time. So it's a very, very trying year. But on the lighter side, there's also some positives that has happening, and I think one of the things that I've been very, very proud of that we this is as this is our last wrap up session of this year. Remember, Abid, we had our first session. There was only two of us when we started about almost a year ago.
Yeah, I was thinking about that myself, Sam. It's unbelievable that just about at this time of the year we were talking about bringing this platform together, and I believe our first session was in January. I'm very thankful and very happy with how it came together, with all the speakers that were kind enough to spend time with us, and all of our viewers on different platforms that have been following us and helping us with topics and getting involved in the discussions. It has really been a lot of fun to put these episodes together. As a matter of fact, starting in January, we will please stay tuned, and I hope that you will subscribe to our channel. We've got a very good lineup and different topics that we will be bringing to you starting January. But it's been a year, a lot of hours of viewing on our YouTube channel, a lot of followers that have joined, a lot of comments. So it's been a tremendous amount of fun.
Yeah, let's think back a little bit. And when I was kind of planning about our discussion, I was thinking, well, what was one of the things that I'm proud or grateful over this year? So I want to ask you that question a bit. What is something that you are proud or grateful of from this year?
Well, to be honest, personally speaking, Sam, one of the things that I'm very grateful for is, in spite of the pandemic ravaging through the world, thankfully, everybody in my family has stayed healthy, and everybody has done all the right things to make sure that they don't contribute in any way to the spread of this virus. So I'm very thankful that that has happened. Apart from a couple of people that I know very well who have gone through this terrible virus and the experience that it has given, most of the people that I've known, they've stayed healthy. So I'm very thankful for that. Again, looking back, I vividly remember in February talking to people in our field about this virus that had started in Asia, and I was of the belief that much like SARS or MERS, it will have an impact, but it will not become as bad as it did. There are millions of people that have been impacted. There are lots and lots of people that have lost their jobs, no matter what industry. No industry has been immune to it. I don't think there is anybody that has not been impacted in some way. So looking back, we've come a long ways, and maybe this is a very tough lesson for all of us to to be a little more cognizant of how we deal with each other and how we take care of the Mother Earth.
Yeah. Well, from my side, I mean, first of all, I had an opportunity to do a live stream with a friend of mine, Jay and Kolla, who's based in Bangalore. And we talked about end of January, in fact, we talked about this virus, and we talked about the bubble travel bubble, which we discussed that it's possible that people will be traveling in a bubble for time being regionally and so on. But more importantly now, about a couple of things that I'm grateful, of course, is that I'm grateful that both my wife and myself, we have remained healthy, and I'm grateful for my wife that she has been putting up with this time when we are spending a lot of time indoors, and we have most of the time is 3 meals a day at home and not going out, and we both been wearing the masks since March, when in Helsinki it was not very common that people were wearing masks, but I think I learned the lesson from my relatives in Korea, where they said, well, a mask is not about protecting yourself, but you also should be responsible for others. That in case you have something, you should at least so it's responsibility on both sides. That by caring, we are also wearing the mask, and of course washing the hands and using keeping the hands clean and so on, and etc. And a friend of mine gave me, in fact, a pair of gloves which has copper in them. And he said that that's one of the best thing to wear, but I realized that it's going from one thing to another, and now it's become a fashion of wearing all kinds of masks. People are making it sort of a fashion statement. They're wearing different. But then something I'm proud of is, of course, that I had a chance to do these live streams with you, Abid, and in fact meeting a lot of people that I would not have had a chance to meet otherwise. I mean, you have a great network of leaders in the hospitality industry, and so our discussion has been wide from corporate leadership to consultants in various, whether it's in the spa industry or where it's consultants, architects, etc. And one of the things that I'm kind of remembering is that one of the key pivoting moment for me for this year is that I partnered with a great architect company, Studio Puisto, and we are working on the Hotel of the Future project. And that has kind of evolved to Hospitality of the Future group, which we formed in LinkedIn. And Celine Vadam, that you introduced in one of our live streams, after our live stream, I contacted her. I said, it would be great if we can connect the Studio Puisto architects and you, and we can see if we can do something together. And she's a go-getter, so she quickly organized a group, and we are now having this group formed in LinkedIn. And if anyone who is in LinkedIn want to join in, go to the Hospitality of the Future group. And there we are having continuous discussion about the hospitality of the future, and we're putting it's a little bit like a think tank. So that's I think that's one of the, probably, if I'm grateful and then proud, it has been one of those things for me.
Well, look, that is so true, quite candidly. A lot of the folks that we have had join us on these discussions have contributed a great deal. And I must say, I have learned a lot through these conversations, not only during the conversations, but talking to these people before and after the sessions. It has been fabulous. And of course, you get to know more people and how they have evolved in this industry. And I find it personally very gratifying. So that side of it has been terrific. And hopefully more to come for a very long time.
Yeah. One thing I remember very clearly, that we remember we had one guest from Mali, from Africa.
Yes.
And one of the things he mentioned, that this is the first time I haven't had dinner with my daughter for the last 15 years. And this was one of the things that when we asked the standard question from the interviewers, what has this period of time, what have you learned from this period of time, and what has it meant for you? And he simply answered that question. And I also noticed there are many of our guests who are busy executives living on airport sandwiches when they're traveling, and that they spend a lot of time at home, had a chance to, there's no weekend, it's all but one blur of days and evenings, but spending a lot of time eating at home, conduct work from home. It's not the perfect situation where you have the dogs, cats, and the kids running around while you are conducting your Zoom calls, and it's quite okay. It's not an issue anymore, and people will understand.
Well, I think really that side of things have evolved as well, because people had to adapt, and people had to adapt in a very short time period.
Yeah.
Some folks might have had home offices, but a lot of people were using kitchen tables or kitchen counters to conduct business. The positive that we heard from just about every person that we spoke to was that they are very thankful that they've been able to spend more time with their family. One of the speakers that I remember vividly had said, and this is a quote that has been used, she had said, tough times don't last, tough people do. So I've remembered that, and I'm counting on humanity beating this pandemic and coming out stronger,
Sure.
because this will pass.
Yeah.
Now that vaccines are coming out and people are learning how to live with it in the interim, this will pass.
What are the things that, any particular moments or anything else you want to add about from our guests that has stayed in your memory, if there's something that you want to share?
Well, look, we had people from C-suites that talked about the strategy of their particular companies as to how they had to adapt for during this pandemic, and what tough decisions they had to make. And a lot of people recognized that it was very, very, very difficult trying to survive, because for a lot of the organizations, it was all about survival. From one day to the next, our world had completely changed. So learning how that adaptability worked was very important. I know we had a few of the folks that talked about the leadership attributes and what helped them being agile and rolling with the punches was one of the more important things, because the best laid plans in this pandemic did not work. As new information was being brought about, you had to constantly be changing what you were focused on. Now, in a lot of ways, that is very difficult to do, because most of us have been trained and brought up in planning and working the plan and adjusting, but not adjusting every minute of every day. So that was interesting to hear about. We had people from the wellness industry, and I think wellness will be a very important element beyond this pandemic, because it is front and center how people have been able to cope with it. And not only your physical wellness, but mental wellness is going to become very important. There is a lot of studies on people having to work remotely and how the leaders of the organizations have been able to motivate these teams to continue to go on. We had people from restaurant industry, even though my heart goes out to a lot of the restaurateurs that have lost their businesses, or they've been shut down for a very long time. But we learned from these professionals as to what they had to do to adapt. A Michelin star type of a restaurant now doing takeouts had to adapt how they would package the food so that by the time it gets home, it still looks good and tastes good. And also what the future would hold as we come out of this. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
But look, there are so many moments and so many learnings that we've had. I go through our video section of the YouTube channel and reminisce some of the guests that we had and what they talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Chris Cahill from Accor. He talked about that. First of all, stay cool and don't plan too far ahead. Look at next week. I mean, at this time, and this was one of the things that I remember very clearly from one of the top leaders in the industry. And then Rohit Sarjeev, he talked about. You talked about the Michelin star restaurant. He has written a very controversial article called "Fine Dining is Dead." But what really meant to me that fine dining is not really dead, but that the fine dining restaurants will have to adapt to a situation. He mentioned about one of the famous restaurants in Bangkok, for instance, where the Michelin star restaurant, where the chef is now serving the best curry in town. You know, so and also the well-known restaurant in Copenhagen. That has been sort of the top table in the world, and he's selling the best burger for $18 a burger. But so it's adaptability to the situation, but also then looking ahead what has to be done with restaurants and particularly hotel restaurants. I just talked recently one of the corporate leaders based in Dubai, where until now they have thought about the best ways to lease out the space. But now they say, no, we're taking it back. We want to run our own restaurants because we really realize that the local restaurant market is so strong in Dubai that we are better off, even though we have our hotels are empty because of a situation happens with like similar to the pandemic. But the local clientele enjoy eating, and so some restaurants went to that extent that they opened individual satellite kitchens so they can deliver the same quality of food in Dubai for people living on the other side of Dubai. So that has really evolved to being very creative. And I just read recently, not a couple of days ago, how a hotel in New York, for instance, is they are a restaurant chef and a hotel. They're teamed up, so you can book a suite for 3 hours to have your meal from a restaurant. I thought that was a fabulous idea. It just shows that people have to be people are becoming very creative, and I think if there's a learning from this global pandemic is that the thinking caps are on the people who have the ability to win at the end and stay tough, because you have to try. There's no bad ideas. The bad idea is that you don't do anything and you wait for the normal to happen again, come back again, and that's how I learn. And also, of course, on the wellness side, we had Jerome Turbier from France, where they have the spa where they're using the residue from the grapes to create the cosmetic line, and Sheila McCann with her medical spas, and Celine Vadam, of course, talking about that the spas are not just the pampering thing, but now we are taking very holistic 360-degree view of a human being, and I think this will also bring additional opportunities for spa to be more creative and creating more of a social environment rather than that. Remember that was one of the sessions we had, one of our guests talked about we have to rethink how our spa operates from one therapist, one room, and one guest. It should be more of a social thing, and that immediately made me think about how the spas are very social in Asia, for instance, and I think that one of our guests from Blue Spas, I think he's taking this idea, not because of us obviously, but he has brought this idea from Asia about the bathing culture. So there's a lot of things that people are taking on board and learning from this. So it's so that has been sort of a very good learning experience moving forward for 2021. But
I think,
yeah.
Sam, the other thing that will come about in a big way, and I'm sure a lot of articles are being written in the tech revolution. Technology is going to evolve hugely, as a result of this, because obviously people have had to work remotely, and folks going into the restaurants and going into the hotels might have to deal with things a little bit differently. As a matter of fact, there was a video released a couple of weeks ago from a restaurant in China that is 100% mechanized delivery of food. It's almost like a sort of conveyor belt that a basket lowers down right on the table, and there is no server involved. Now, in a little part of me, quite candidly, hopes that we don't get to that level, even though that would be nice to be able to experience. But going to a restaurant is a social event first and foremost. So I hope that we don't get to that point that it's going to be absolutely mechanized. But because the next thing will happen is that we will be dining with a robot rather than a human being.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that the tech side of what I'm thinking of is that I think the time is start to be right that eventually that hotel organization, hospitality organizations have a AI officer who understands that side, because we all want to have AI more effectively used, but we don't do it because we don't know how to go about it. And the question is that why don't we bring somebody in or outsource it in a way that if we are as an independent hotel cannot afford to have somebody on the payroll, but really to look at all the what the AI and ML or machine learning can bring to the table, and how can we more efficiently collect data and use that data to predict and also to customize the customer experience. Because everybody talks about, yeah, we have to customer experience, we have to tailor make our experience for our guests, but in reality we try to rethink what they want. But if we're using the data which we collect and actually the more data we collect, we start to understand the customer much better. And also the point which I've been talking about last 5 years, about using the visual conversation on social media, and then to not talk about the unique story or the story, but actually to go and discuss with the customer who are on the line anyway, to what are we doing, and not only as a sales tool, but just creating awareness, because at the end of the day, this is how the customer will then start to choose where they're staying and spend more money on that than on the third-party apps which you pay 25% commission to for book your room. Why don't you? There are some hotel chains actually who don't use them, and they are very successful. And you can only book them through their website or through the direct channels, and save your money and put that money, part of that money, into investing into AI.
Yeah, there are lots to be learned, and quite candidly, we don't even know what we don't know, because things will have changed a great deal once we go beyond this pandemic. Some things might have become a norm at this particular point, where at the beginning of the pandemic, we were all struggling, having to do it. But by the time it gets all done, it will have been a year, or in some cases longer than a year. So that might become a norm, that we will just expect to do it. You talked about earlier that the masks are being worn as a fashion statement. A lot of the manufacturers adapted to start producing masks, and even major news network on the TV, they have a commercial based on a mask tells a lot about people that wear it, but their closing it tells a lot about people that don't wear it. So it's a really different environment that we are in today, that we live in, and of course the great thing is that we will survive. There are vaccines that are being introduced, and hopefully within the next quarter or so, most of the people that want vaccination will have been vaccinated, and it will be brought under control, so that the physical distancing that human beings are having to live by, that will be done away with, because that's not norm to us. It's innate in our DNA to be social and to be amongst other human beings, and this pandemic has made that very, very difficult. I would be missing an opportunity if I was not to say thanks to all the essential workers and all the first responders all over the world, no matter what part of the world they're in. It's the nurses, it's the physicians, it's the hospital workers, the fire folks, it's the grocery store people, it's the people that come and pick up the garbage. All these folks that have kept working in these conditions. A lot of the nations are indebted to all these essential workers that continue to contribute.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully now the vaccination is being delivered as we speak, and now many of the first responders are in fact being vaccinated, and I mean they are also encouraging other people to once it's their turn to get that vaccination. So yeah, I'm truly grateful for all the hard work and countless of hours, and never thinking about themselves, but in fact how to help. It's something which is we all have to remember and be very, very grateful about what they're going through, and also how they make things help us to live into the future and so on. But that seems to be a point where we can start to wrap up our session for today, which was meant to be just a short hello, but there was opportunity to just share some moments. But Abid, you mentioned that we have something in store for next year. Are we able to reveal who we have yet, or are we going to just put out the announcements?
I think it'll be best if we stayed with the announcements, because people's schedules are ever changing. But I can tell you it'll be very great speakers, great topics. And I would also encourage our viewers and people that have joined our groups on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube to contribute some discussions, contribute the articles that we can all learn from, and also talk about the topics that we can bring up, because it helps us stay abreast of what people are experiencing.
Absolutely. Well, Abid, I wish I had a glass of champagne to wish you a happy new year, but we do sort of digitally. So looking forward to continue our discussions here on Hospitality Talks, and to discussing with some very interesting guests for the coming year. So may I wish you, and also I wish all our guests and all the viewers who were watching us live, and also the replay viewers, a very, very happy new year. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again in not too distant of the future.
I would echo the same, Sam. Thank you for all of our viewers, whether they were live or watching the episodes on our channel, people that have joined our groups. Thank you for your support. Do continue to participate. Do continue to tell us the topics that you want to hear about. I very much look forward to seeing you not only in digitally, but hopefully in person, so that we can have a glass of wine or champagne or coffee or whatever in person before too long, because that's what it's all about, and that's what hospitality is all about.
Okay, thanks, and I look forward to it. So see you soon.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.